You know what thrives in a place like this?
Mushrooms?
Bingo. Yeah, mushrooms. Welcome to our new base of operations.
So all hell is breaking loose in Gotham as the Penguin, Sal Maroni, and Sofia Gigante are going on a turf war. As just everything goes to shit this episode, which honestly everything was done amazingly. Just showing the stakes of this city, how screwed Oz is, how Sofia is gonna rise to the top, and just how much stuff is really gonna go down in these final few episodes for the season. I'm so excited to see what they do. In this video, we're gonna be breaking down the episode, talking about the ending a little bit more, and any little Easter eggs that might have appeared during it. So let's start off with the beginning of the episode where Oz is burning his car. That's the one piece of evidence he needs to get rid of because, you know, Vic drove it into the Maronis, so they gotta get rid of that evidence or a crime is gonna be pinned on them. Unfortunate part, it's an end of an era for that purple car, but I guess, you know, we'll probably get a new one by the end of the season. And I love how Oz's plan is to go after Taj Maroni, the weakest link of the family, going to take their son who just yaps all over the internet, and they use TikTok as a perfect way to show how someone says a little bit too much online. And it was kind of brutal because Oz is just dropping bodies left and right as he goes through the city taking out the Maronis. I love how they picked up Taj at the tattoo parlor. Then he goes to the prison to threaten Nadia and Sal. And I love how he's threatening them because he's like, I just want my shrooms back. You shouldn't have robbed me. But y'all, we all knew he had a plan up his sleeve because the Maronis turn around and they're like, there's a code you broke, which is like, I guess the code is you're not supposed to take the children of the head of the families. You're supposed to leave them out of it because they're not really involved. But Oz is like, screw that. I'm kidnapping him. I'll give you your son back once you give me my drugs. And it really shows what Oz is willing to do to run this city, which he's clearly breaking all the codes that the high mob families had, and they're now gonna have to redo new ones, especially with all the shit that's going down in Gotham City, especially with Sofia doing her own thing as well as she wiped out the Falcone name, which then we do pick up with Sofia after she took out her entire family, and you know, they're like, oh, it's a little suspicious that the entire Falcone family, a huge crime family in Gotham, was just taken out by a gas leak, and I like how she gets very defensive against this. She's playing the cops like no tomorrow. And Mackenzie Buck is the chief of police in the Batman as well. So getting another Batman character to return. And it was making me think while I was watching this, I'm still surprised we have not seen Jim Gordon. He's a main character at GCPD. There's a lot of stuff we've been dealing with the cops so far. I'm just shocked we haven't seen him yet. And in this moment, Bonk is definitely one of the more non-corrupt GCPD officers, because in the Batman, he seemed against the vigilante stuff with Batman. So in this case, he's actually trying to make a change and go after the crime families of Gotham. And I totally thought this was going to be the moment where Sofia starts to pin the gas leak on Johnny, but she doesn't. It doesn't seem like she does, at least. And she kind of makes it ambiguous about what's really going on. And I love how she just has him tied up in the crypt, family crypt. He's tied up there and she's going to use him for her own advantage. Like, I fully expected when he was running his mouth trying to get Sofia to listen to her by saying that Sofia's mother, Isabel, went to him to help her and the kids get away from Carmine Falcone, and then the night she died, she was actually going to take them away. I was actually really interested by that because I'm like, oh, Sofia's going to kill him. She's either going to kill him right now or she's going to set him up so that he takes the fall for all the deaths and then he's going to get thrown in jail or something along those lines. Because Johnny was really trying to go past all of this, really trying to get Sofia to listen to him, even saying that she needs him in order to gain the respect of the remaining people in the family, so all the little henchmen. But like, it just so much was going on in this moment. I'm like, Johnny's gonna die. And then when we finally do pick up with them, when we have Julian Rush going to Sofia saying that he covered for her when the cops came and asked her questions, and then how he wants to have that release that Sofia had when she let go of her family and took them all out. He wants to feel that rush. And I'm like, oh god, this guy is crazy as well. Maybe he will be tied to another Batman villain in the comics, just with how like kind of crazy is this man. Worked at Arkham as a psychiatrist, and there's something clearly wrong with him. But I was not expecting to see Johnny in the room with everyone, because I'm like, you wouldn't want to trust him after everything he did. I guess he is trying to survive at this point, and I just thought he would be a scapegoat for the crime. But then she straight up tells them that she was the one that took out the Falcones, and that the Falcones are no longer around, and that they're going to be stopping the crime war against the Maronis. And you can see how Johnny is kind of terrified of her, so that's probably the reason why she let him live, because she knew he wasn't going to do anything because of how scared he was. Until he tries to step up, try to say something about the Falcones, because she was saying that they're going to be the Gigantes now. And instead of the Falcones having a new name, starting a new family, because the Falcones are dead. And I love how she was talking about how she wants to treat her men better than the Falcons did because the Falcons only ever used them as pawns, and she doesn't want to do it that way. And even pays them off with all that money. But then she also blasts Johnny in the head when he wouldn't shut up, and like, well, I guess never mind. Johnny's not working for them. Johnny's not going to be the scapegoat. Now he's axed. Everyone dropped bodies this episode. Oz, Sal, and Sophia all dropped some bodies this episode, and we'll talk more about the rest of the Sophia stuff in a bit. Now let's jump back to Oz and what he was up to earlier in the episode. Then we pick up with Oz and his men back at Eve's apartment, and she's screwed. She knows she is because she is Oz's girl, and as Oz's girl, she is 110% going to be killed because it was someone that's close to him. And because of what he did to Alberto, the Maronis, he is screwed at this point. And I love how Oz is happy that Sophia took out the family because that means he can rise to the top a little bit easier without them all being in his way. Which makes me feel like he's definitely underestimating Sophia with what she can do. Because she wasn't crazy before she went to Arkham, but after being at Arkham, she became crazy, and she's so unpredictable now. And Oz knows that to an extent because he does send Vic to go take care of his mother because he knows something's bad's gonna happen to her. Which is just a foreshadow for what's gonna happen later in the season, where Sophia or Sal get their hands on Oz's mother and kills her in front of him. That's where I see the season going. He's gonna lose everything before the end of it, but at the same time, he's gonna lose those people that's close to him, but he's gonna rise to the top of the Gotham crime families. And when we go to Oz's mom's, her dementia is getting worse and worse and worse because the stove is on, everything's everywhere, the house is a mess, and she doesn't even recognize that Vic isn't one of her sons. Trying to give him one of the baseball mitts until Vic tells her who he is, and she kind of snaps out of it and gets mad that Oz didn't come visit her. A mother who cares about her son, and he's even proud of him making a move on the Maronis, and Vic lying to her that Oz was the one that took the Falcons out, and she's proud of that. No, she's proud of her son being this crime lord because he worked his way to the top from when they used to live on the east side, and he's making a name for himself. Kind of makes me wonder what kind of shady stuff his mother was into back in the day, and if she was possibly a crime lord of some sort at one point. They have an odd relationship, him and his mother, and I still feel like she's gonna die. But let's continue as Oz's plan goes into action, where he sends one of his men to take out Sal Maroni in his prison cell. I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, okay, there goes the first body. Then he meets with Nadia to get his shrooms back and give her a son. It was right away a two-way trap. Taj is covered in gasoline and Nadia has an ambush to take him out. But he got away with his men and his shrooms and burned Nadia and Sal to death. Like, that was brutal. This is what I mean. Penguin is just dropping bodies after bodies this episode. And the irony too is the whole plan was almost for nothing because all the shrooms were dead except for 2 buckets. So if they were all dead, that whole plan of him taking that out, starting this war, would have literally been for nothing. Now, since he doesn't really have a lot of the mushrooms left, he could get Trey Bloom back involved, and that could be leading to Trey Bloom actually being Mr. Bloom from the comics and leading into that comic storyline as well. Probably without all the fantastical powers, but using the character name in a sense. But then after all that, Sal calls, and he actually got out of prison by killing Oz's man. So pretty much they're completely screwed at this point, and fully knowing he's gonna have retaliation coming at him, which is why he gets Vic to take his mom away. Now, when they pull up to the spot after taking out Nadia and Taj, we see a sign that says Mayor Don Mitchell Jr. with a Riddler mark on it, which he was the first victim of the Riddler in the Batman. Which I thought all this was done really great, really upping the stakes to this series, showing that Oz's plan kind of went well until Sal got out. If Sal ended up dying in that prison cell, he wouldn't have anything to worry about the Maronis. But because he got out, he is now screwed because he's gonna have Sophia and Sal after him, especially after they teamed up in this episode. But before we get to that, I love how Vic took Oz's mom to Crown Point because it's showing us how destroyed this district is and how it's in literal ruin. There's shit everywhere, cars on top of each other. Literally brings him down the street from his old apartment where his parents and sister died. And we can see the seawall there being repaired after the Riddler blew it up. And this is like the dark part where Crown Point is an absolute ruin, which is exactly why no one's gonna suspect them to be there. However, because Squid saw that he's there, I have a really high feeling that Squid is either gonna tell Sal or Sophia about seeing Vic and Penguin's mom walking into that apartment, or he's probably gonna break in, find out who's there, rat on them, and then get them all killed. Plus, it's his turf, so with Oz opening up his new drug facility there, I have a feeling he's probably going to go after him as well for that. Because it definitely sees what's coming, and I do love how they tease into this episode that Oz's mom said that
the east side is cursed.
We learn later that Oz grew up on the East Side, and the East Side took his family away, which is why his mom was saying it was cursed. So as they were growing up, Oz and his brothers used to run around the city all the time, and eventually it caught up to them, which they ended up being taken out by someone. We haven't learned yet, but I'm sure we'll learn eventually about how his brothers died and what's really so dark about the East Side. And I kind of understand why Oz is a little bit more closer with Vic now as well, because
City took him. Just like it took your family.
so both of them have been dealing with trauma from this district, but it's also the best place to hide because no one's going to expect them to go to a ruined city. Now, I will say, Oz was being a little weird when he went to go see Eve, and how she pretty much was breaking up with them because they had an agreement that they wouldn't fuck each other over, and that's exactly what he did by causing all this mess, going to her, bringing people into her apartment, is getting her involved, screwing her over, because that puts her involved with everything. That means the other people are going to come after her. If they want to take a Penguin, they're going to go after her, which again is probably why she's going to die. And you know what? Oz might do it himself. He might do it himself by feeling betrayed by her, and I guess we'll see when it comes to it. But now as we loop back to Sophia, I was fully not expecting her to go team up with Sal Maroni. I was expecting her to go see Sal, take him out to end the war between the Maronis and her, but she's smart. You know, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. I feel like that's exactly what's going on here. As she goes to tell him about how Oz, her driver, spun a story about her that ruined her life, and how Oz rose to the top, and now it's time for her to get revenge. Like, really interesting to see what she's doing, because she got screwed over by Oz. Sal got screwed over by Oz because he killed his wife and son, so it makes sense that they team up to take out their common enemy. Plus, I love how she kind of talks about how the Falcones had her shitty morals when it came to dealing with family and their men, where Sal is more of a father. If Sophia was his daughter and Oz went to him talking about her talking to the press and everything, he would rip Oz's tongue out, which is what a dad would do, you know, protect his children rather than send his children away and punish them by sending them to the worst place in Gotham City as Arkham Asylum. It really shows where their ideals stand between the two families. Also a way of Sophia manipulating Sal and getting him to work with her as she tries to understand him a little bit more so they can kind of find common ground. So now we got the Maronis and the Gigantes working together to take down Oz. So this giant war is coming to Gotham between two families now and then, because two are teaming up, and Oz is by himself. But we all know what's going to happen. It's the Penguin show. He's now moved his base of operations into the tunnels below Gotham City that the trolleys used to run on, which I thought was really interesting. When I first saw the trolley coin that says one fair trolley, I was expecting it to be like some kind of tease for something else. I wasn't expecting them to literally have a base of operations in the tunnels. 100% feels like somewhere the Batman would hang out. Like, that feels like a base of operations for Bruce Wayne to set up where his Batmobile would be, and quick and easy routes in around Gotham. That's exactly what it feels like. But the Penguin is going to be using this as his place to distribute his drugs, have them grow, and easily move around Gotham as these tunnels go everywhere. Now, this is where I feel like the Batman might show up. Mostly because he might come in, find out their operation, take it down, then start using the tunnels for himself by sealing off other entrances that people could come through and setting up his own base of operations down there underneath Gotham City, which definitely feels like something he would do. And it is something he did because he does have an underground base in Gotham City in the Batman, but I'm just thinking this is more of expanding that. And I thought it was pretty cool to see what they're planning. It definitely did feel like very Gotham-esque as you go into these tunnels, and like dripping water everywhere, the dark kind of look to it all, like that just screams Gotham City. And I really like the set design they've been really doing in this series. Like, they're doing a great job portraying what kind of city Gotham is, especially with Crown Point being in ruins. It's so cool, and I love this show. Is so good. It's so good. The acting is great, the stakes are great, and everything about it has been phenomenal so far. And I can't wait to see how they go in the next few episodes, because I think things are about to get crazy. But let me know, what did you think of this episode? Did you notice any Easter eggs or references during it? Because honestly, after watching it, I didn't really pick up on a lot this episode. I felt like this episode might have actually had the least amount of stuff, where it was more focused just on that story between characters and what they were setting up for the giant mob war that's coming. But I am excited to see what comes next. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Penguin breakdowns. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you next week when we watch another episode of The Penguin.